The first sip of coffee scalds my tongue, but I barely notice. Morning light spills across my kitchen counter, illuminating the row of family photos magnetized to the refrigerator. My mother's practiced smile. Rowan's graduation cap tilted at a perfect angle. Grandfather with his weathered hands on my shoulders on my 18th birthday, his pride unmistakable even as his health failed. I stretch, feeling yesterday's inventory count in my lower back. Another 14-hour day keeping Voss Manufacturing afloat while my family sleeps. The rhythm of ordinary morning routines usually centers me, but today feels off-kilter somehow. My phone buzzes against the countertop. A voicemail notification from Mom. Strange. Vivian never calls this early. I tap the screen, lifting the phone to my ear as I refill my coffee mug. Greta. My mother's voice carries that clipped tone she reserves for business matters. Rowan and I have decided to restructure. We're buying out your shares. Expect a call from our lawyer. The mug freezes halfway to my lips. No greeting, no explanation, just 12 words that intend to erase 18 years of my life. I replay the message. Once, twice, 3 times. The words remain unchanged, matter of fact, clinical. Restructure. As if my life's work were nothing more than an inconvenient spreadsheet column. The morning light suddenly feels harsh against my eyes. I set the mug down before my trembling hands can betray me further. A hot splash of coffee lands on my thumb, but the burn registers as distant information. Understood. I whisper to the empty kitchen. The word hangs there, suspended in the silence of my modest Santa Fe home. A home purchased with money I saved by sleeping on the office couch during production emergencies rather than paying for an apartment during my early 20s. I stare at the refrigerator photos. My grandfather's weathered face looks back, his expression knowing. He founded Voss Manufacturing in 1978, with nothing but grit and a second-hand drill press. While Vivian chased her social aspirations and Rowan pursued an overpriced marketing degree, I stood beside him in the warehouse at 18, learning to operate every machine, memorizing every client account, solving problems before they became catastrophes. College can wait, I'd told him when the 2008 recession threatened to close our doors. The business can't. My mind drifts to his hospital room, 6 years ago now. The lawyer at his bedside, papers spread across the rolling tray table. 42% to Greta, he'd said, his voice weak but resolute. 30% to Vivian, 28% to Rowan. My mother's lips had thinned to a bloodless line. Rowan's fingers had clutched her designer handbag until her knuckles whitened. Dad, that's not what we discussed, Vivian had protested. Grandfather's hand had found mine, squeezing with surprising strength. Greta didn't go to college, but she earned her business degree sweating in the warehouse at 6 in the morning when everyone else was sleeping. The company stands because of her. The last gift he could give me. The recognition no one else would. I run my finger across the screen, erasing the voicemail with a swipe. The memory of last year's financial crisis surfaces 3 days without sleep as I transferred funds from my personal savings to cover payroll when a major client went bankrupt. Pneumonia during the Denver trade show, standing through presentations with a 102-degree fever because someone with people skills needed to be visible. The couch in my office that has witnessed more of my nights than my actual bedroom. All while Vivian introduced me at conferences as the girl who handles the spreadsheets. All while Rowan took credit for production innovations I implemented during midnight shifts. The family dinner last month flickers into focus, questioning the marketing budget that had tripled under Rowan's supervision without corresponding sales increases. Let the people with people skills handle this, my mother had said, cutting into her steak without looking up. Rowan had patted my hand. Numbers are your thing, not strategy, Greta. They hadn't known about the debt restructuring I'd quietly engineered the week before. The one that saved us from insolvency after Rowan's brand activation campaign failed spectacularly. I take another sip of cooling coffee, my mind already calculating. 18 years of documentation, 6 years of majority ownership that they've systematically undermined. Countless emails and meeting minutes showing decisions made without my input despite my controlling share. My phone buzzes again. A text from Vivian. Let's make this simple. The papers will be ready Friday. Simple. As if they could erase me as easily as changing an office nameplate. The numbness recedes, replaced by something unfamiliar, something hot and clarifying. Not blind rage, but something more dangerous. Resolve. I place my mug in the sink with careful precision and straighten my shoulders. They'd never understood that while they were playing at business, I was becoming the business. They were about to learn the difference. At the present, the morning sun slants through my kitchen blinds, casting tiger stripes across my laptop screen. 3 weeks since the voicemail. Days of showing up at the office, nodding at appropriate moments during meetings, and pretending my world hasn't tilted off its axis. I sip lukewarm coffee, scrolling mindlessly through LinkedIn updates. A former classmate celebrating 10 years at Microsoft. A warehouse manager I once interviewed now running operations for a competitor in Colorado. The usual parade of professional milestones and humble brags. Then I see it. My coffee mug freezes halfway to my lips. The photo shows Vivian and Rowan smiling broadly, shaking hands with a tall man in an expensive suit. The Voss manufacturing logo gleams on the wall behind them. The headline reads, "Family-owned manufacturing company announces strategic partnership with Texas-based Turner Investments." My throat constricts. 42%. That's my ownership stake. My signature required for any strategic partnership. My approval needed for any structural change. My fingers tremble as I click to enlarge the image. The timestamp says yesterday, 2:15 p.m. I was in the warehouse yesterday afternoon, troubleshooting an equipment malfunction while they were apparently signing away pieces of my grandfather's legacy. Without my consent, I whispered to the empty kitchen. I grab my notebook, the one with the reinforced cover and archival quality paper, and begin documenting. Time, date, screenshot, URL. My handwriting, usually measured and precise, slants with urgency across the page. I've maintained these notebooks for 18 years, recording every decision, every exclusion, every instance where my authority was undermined. Evidence. Lucas would call it a paper trail. I call it self-preservation. The company financial portal takes 30 seconds to load after I enter my credentials. Another 10 seconds as I navigate to the records section. Despite my official title as operations director, my mother insisted financial oversight remain where it belongs, under her watchful eye. But grandfather made certain I maintained access to all systems before he died. Knowledge is leverage, he'd told me, his voice already weakened by cancer. The quarterly statements appear on screen. I scan line items, searching for irregularities. There, coded under research and development, a $127,000 expense from last spring. The same amount as Rowan's student loans for her marketing degree. Coincidence seems unlikely. I dig deeper. Under client relations, I find monthly maintenance payments for a property in Taos, Vivian's vacation home. The one she claimed helped secure important contracts during ski season. My fingers move faster, taking screenshots, saving PDFs, forwarding copies to my personal email. Each discovery burns hotter than the last. Years of financial sleight of hand hidden beneath legitimate business expenses. And then I find it, the record of my personal savings transfers. 4 separate occasions when I moved funds from my accounts to cover payroll during cash flow crises. Classified as temporary operational investments, never repaid. The laptop screen blurs. I blink hard, refusing the release of tears. This isn't about emotion, this is about evidence. I close my eyes, remembering Vivian at the Chamber of Commerce dinner last year, her arm around my shoulders as she addressed the table. I've mentored Greta through some challenging decisions. She handles our numbers, but strategy requires experience. The polite smiles around the table, the assumption that I was merely the implementer of her vision. Rowan's voice echoes from the Denver trade show. My sister handles the technical stuff so I can focus on growing our brand presence. As if my 18-hour days were merely technical stuff, while her Instagram posts constituted actual work. My phone buzzes. A text from Rowan. Mom wants to know if you're coming to the stakeholder meeting Friday. Legal will have those papers ready. I don't respond. Instead, I find Lucas Sutter's contact information, my grandfather's attorney for 30 years. His number hasn't changed since the hospital room 6 years ago. He answers on the second ring. Greta Voss, I wondered when you'd finally call me. The familiar gravel in his voice steadies me. I need your help, Lucas. Your grandfather warned me this might happen. Paper rustles in the background. He wanted to protect you, but he trusted them to treat you fairly. I told him to put it in writing. The operating agreement is outdated. No minority shareholder protections. No clauses preventing them from making unilateral decisions despite your majority stake. His sigh carries decades of witnessing family business implosions. You're in a vulnerable position, Greta. Time-sensitive, too. I straighten my spine, feeling the weight of 18 years of silent compliance. I understand the stakes. Do you? His voice sharpens. You could lose everything you've built, everything your grandfather entrusted to you. The sunlight shifts across my kitchen table, illuminating the row of family photos on my refrigerator. My mother's practiced smile, Rowan's perfectly angled graduation cap. My grandfather's weathered hands on my shoulders. I won't fight them, Lucas. My voice sounds strange to my own ears, calmer, colder. I'll simply respond in kind. And what does that mean exactly? I close my laptop with a decisive click. It means I'm finally going to use the one thing they've always underestimated. Which is me. Next day, the company-wide email arrives at 7:32 a.m., while I'm reviewing production numbers from my home office. Subject line: Exciting changes at Voss Manufacturing. Sent from Vivian's account to everyone except me. My coffee goes cold as I scroll through my assistant's forwarded copy. Words like streamlining, modernization, and fresh direction jump from the screen. My name appears nowhere in the 3 paragraphs outlining the future of the company I've kept alive for 18 years. My phone buzzes with a text from Marco in maintenance. Did you see the email? What's happening? Before I can respond, another message appears from Diane in accounting. Just got locked out of the financial system. Rowan says to direct all questions to her now. Something I should know? The landline rings. I let it go to voicemail, watching the caller ID display, Vivian Cell. This makes the 5th call since yesterday. I've answered none. Instead, I straighten the documents on my desk: 18 years of balance sheets, innovation reports, and loan agreements bearing my signature. Records of personal funds transferred to cover payroll when clients paid late. Documentation of midnight troubleshooting that saved production deadlines. My grandfather's voice echoes from memory. Paper remembers what people forget, Greta. Lucas arrives at 10 as promised. Not at the office, we meet at Cottonwood Cafe, 3 towns over, where Vivian's country club friends won't spot us. He's not alone. 2 women and a man in crisp business attire slide into the booth alongside him. Greta Voss. Meet Alexandra Burke, Thomas Riker, and Melissa Hernandez from Westland Partners. Lucas says, his voice steady but his eyes watchful. They'd like to hear about your family business. Alexandra speaks first. Mr. Sutter explained your situation. We review dozens of family businesses monthly, and frankly, most aren't worth our time. I understand, I say, pulling a flash drive from my bag. That's why I brought this. Thomas accepts it, plugging it into his laptop. The screen illuminates his face as he scrolls through the contents-me meticulously organized documentation of every aspect of Voss Manufacturing. These projections seem optimistic, he says, frowning at a spreadsheet. They're conservative, I counter. The Phoenix expansion opportunity isn't even included. Neither is the patent pending on our hydraulic stabilization system. Melissa raises an eyebrow. Patent? My design, filed under the company name last year. Your mother and sister didn't mention any patent applications during our meeting last month, Alexandra says. The revelation stings but doesn't surprise me. They wouldn't know about it. They've never visited the production floor unless clients were present. Thomas continues scrolling, his expression shifting from doubt to interest. These efficiency metrics, they're significantly better than industry standard. Those improvements came from working alongside our machinists, not from MBA textbooks. Alexandra leans forward. You've been hiding the real value of this company even from yourself. Their initial skepticism dissolves as I walk them through the numbers behind the numbers, the true production capacity when properly managed. The loyal client base built on reliability rather than Rowan's glossy brochures. The untapped markets waiting for someone who understands both the machinery and the margins. Why would you sell your stake rather than fight for control? Melissa asks, closing her tablet. With this documentation, you could make a case for oppression of a majority shareholder. Lucas and I exchange glances. Litigation would damage the company and the employees who depend on it, I explain. Some battles aren't worth winning if everyone loses. Thomas nods slowly. Smart perspective. Later that evening, I climb into my attic, pulling down dusty boxes labeled in my grandfather's handwriting. His journals date back to 1978, the year he started with a secondhand drill press and a rented garage. I find what I'm looking for in a volume from 2004. The 16th of March. Greta stayed until midnight fixing the Thompson order while Vivian and Rowan attended some charity gala. The girl has oil in her veins and steel in her spine. This company will be hers someday, whether they like it or not. I bring the journals to Lucas's office the next morning, along with photos documenting my years at the company. 4 a.m. Arrivals captured on security footage. Midnight departures. Holiday weekends spent solving problems while Vivian and Rowan posted vacation photos from Aspen or Santa Barbara. This strengthens our position considerably. Lucas says, examining a forgotten amendment to my grandfather's will explaining his share distribution decision. But we'll need current employees willing to verify your role. By afternoon, they arrive one by one. Jack from engineering brings schematics with my handwritten corrections that saved thousands in materials. Maria from the warehouse presents production logs showing improvements after my weekend overhauls. Even Timothy from accounting arrives with documentation of financial mismanagement he'd been tracking for years. I respected your grandfather, he tells me, sliding a folder across the desk. He would have wanted you to have this. Inside, records of my personal loans to the company, categorized as capital investments, but never converted to equity as promised. Nearly $230,000 over 6 years. They've been treating the business like a personal ATM, Timothy says quietly, while you've been funding it from your savings account. Lucas coordinates this team of allies, people who worked alongside my grandfather, who witnessed my dedication while Vivian collected accolades and Rowan claimed credit for innovations she barely understood. The following day, we reconvene with Westland Partners. Their initial offer exceeds my expectations. Don't look so surprised, Alexandra says. We're not just buying shares, we're buying operational expertise and untapped potential. With proper management, this company could triple its value within 5 years, Thomas adds, sliding the purchase agreement across the table. Lucas reviews every clause, ensuring protections for employees who've shown loyalty. Don't fight for your place at their table, he advises. Sell your shares to someone who will fight for you. My hand hovers over the signature line. 18 years of sweat equity, of disappeared weekends and canceled vacations, of being introduced as the girl who handles the spreadsheets while keeping the entire operation from collapsing. I sign my name with surprising steadiness. That evening, I sit at my kitchen table, laptop open to my email. Vivian's latest message demands a response to their generous buyout offer significantly below market value, with payments stretched over 10 years. I compose a response. One word sits in the text field. Understood. My finger hovers over the send button. The quiet smile that forms surprises me with its unfamiliar freedom. For the first time in 18 years, I'm not responsible for saving them from themselves. I press send. Have you ever had a moment where you realized your worth after others undervalued you? What changed for you? Share your story below. Next week, Monday, I arrange the pens on my desk in perfect alignment, each cap facing the same direction. Another Monday morning. The routine should comfort me, but today each motion feels like a performance in a play where everyone knows their lines except the audience. Lucas called last night. The private equity team has everything they need. Paperwork finalizes Wednesday. Across the warehouse floor, Rowan leans against the reception desk, her crimson blazer a splash of calculated drama against the industrial gray walls. She gestures with manicured hands to the new sales rep, no doubt spinning tales of her marketing brilliance. The same brilliance that nearly bankrupted us last quarter. I sign the payroll forms with precise strokes. The weight of routine masks the weight of anticipation. My email pings. Vivian. Greta. The buyout terms are exceptionally generous considering your limited contributions beyond number crunching. Legal documents arrive Friday. We expect your signature without delays. Your severance includes 3 months' salary, which frankly exceeds industry standards for your position. Mother. Not mom. Not even Vivian. Just mother, formal and cold as the January day grandfather was buried. I hit reply. Type a single word. Understood. The phone buzzes. Rowan. Hey G, we might keep you on for some minor consulting. Your spreadsheet skills could be useful. Let me know if you're interested, Taney. The smiley face, the patronizing offer, the assumption I'd come crawling back for scraps from my own table. I don't respond. Instead, I open the company announcement they've circulated without my approval. Voss Manufacturing announces exciting new direction under consolidated leadership, streamlining decision-making process, fresh perspective in changing markets. Translation: we've pushed out the person who kept this company alive. Behind closed blinds, two members of the equity firm's audit team work silently in the conference room. Vivian approved their presence 3 days ago, assuming they represented the Texas investor she's courting. Their careful examination has gone unnoticed amid the self-congratulatory atmosphere filling the building. Miss Voss? Hector, our lead machinist for 20 years, stands at my door. Got a minute? I gesture to the chair across from me. His weathered hands twist his cap, eyes not quite meeting mine. The rumors are true then? About you leaving? A small box sits ready beneath my desk. Grandfather's photo. My certification in supply chain management. The brass nameplate from my first office. Already packed. Friday will be my last day, I say. He nods, disappointment evident in the slump of his shoulders. Your grandfather would have hated this. He always said you were the heart of this place. Heart, not brain, not just numbers. The distinction matters. After Hector leaves, I open my desk drawer and remove the small wrapped packages I prepared last night. 37 employees. 37 personalized thank you notes with small gifts, a reference to a shared memory, an inside joke, a moment of crisis weathered together. At 6:30 p.m., when the office empties, I place each package on the appropriate desk. In the warehouse, in reception, in accounting. Even in Rowan's cluttered office with its motivational posters and scattered design magazines. I linger before grandfather's portrait in the main hallway. His eyes, even in oil paint, seem to understand what's coming. With careful hands, I lift it from the wall. The outline of dust marks where it hung for decades. The last piece for my box. As I lock my office door, my phone rings. The Bank of Santa Fe, then Wells Fargo, then our primary supplier in Colorado. All requiring additional documentation for accounts Vivian and Rowan have been managing. All received anonymous tips about financial irregularities. Missed calls from Vivian pile up. 5, 8, 12. Her voicemails grow increasingly frantic. What the hell is happening with the bank? Call me immediately. The Texas deal is asking questions we can't answer. Fix this now. Greta, I know you're there. Pick up the damn phone. I switch my phone to silent and drive to Lucas's office downtown. The equity firm representative waits in a tailored gray suit, documents spread across the polished conference table. Miss Voss, he extends his hand. We value what you built here, not just the numbers, the foundation. The phrase catches in my chest. All these years, that's all I wanted to hear. Lucas's hand rests on my shoulder as I sign the final transfer. Your grandfather would be proud, he says quietly. He knew who really cared about his legacy. My voice doesn't waver. The confirmation appears on Lucas's computer screen, the wire transfer to my account, the culmination of 18 years of early mornings, missed holidays, and invisible labor. Outside, I switch my phone to Do Not Disturb. The equity firm's formal letter announcing their acquisition of controlling interest will arrive at company headquarters tomorrow morning. Vivian and Rowan will learn of their new reality the way I learned of mine. Without warning, without explanation, without courtesy. I drive past the family home where I spent holidays pretending not to notice the dismissive glances. Past the factory where I gave my youth. In the rearview mirror, the Voss Manufacturing sign grows smaller until it disappears entirely. Some might call this revenge. I call it symmetry. The Monday next week, after I left the company quietly, the morning sun glares through the windshield of my rental car as I park 2 blocks from Voss Manufacturing. Close enough to witness what's unfolding, far enough to remain invisible. I check my watch, grandfather's vintage Omega, the only inheritance I truly valued. 8:15. The storm breaks in exactly 15 minutes. My phone vibrates against the console. Rowan's name flashes across the screen for the 4th time this morning. I silence it without a second thought and watch as Vivian's pearl-white Mercedes pulls into her reserved parking space. She steps out, immaculate in her crimson blazer and cream slacks, briefcase swinging with practiced confidence. the tailored armor of someone who believes they've already won. I count her steps toward the entrance. 1, 2, 3. She pauses at the front door, head tilting slightly at the unfamiliar black sedan parked in the visitor's space. 24, 25. She disappears inside. 3 minutes pass before my phone erupts again. Rowan. This time, I answer. Greta. Her voice pitches high with panic. Mom says there are auditors going through everything. Everything. They're in the conference room with men in suits. What's happening? I watch a figure move past the second-story window of the main conference room. I wouldn't know. I'm not involved in the strategic decisions, remember? This isn't funny. One of them just introduced himself as the new majority shareholder. That's impossible. We control 58% between us. 58% of what's left, I say, the words flowing cool and measured. My 42% belongs to Meridian Capital Partners now. The silence stretches so long I check to see if the call dropped. Then, you sold your shares? To strangers? Without talking to us first? The same courtesy you extended to me with your restructuring plans. A door slams in the background on her end. Vivian's voice rises, shrill and commanding. I strain to hear her words, something about family business and outsiders. Then a man's calm, authoritative response. Not anymore. And there are questions that need answers. The panic in Rowan's breathing intensifies. I'm calling Jeffrey, she says, meaning their attorney. Good idea. I end the call and wait. 9 minutes later, my phone lights up with Jeffrey's number. Greta, he says, his voice grave. I've reviewed the sale documents. Everything appears completely legal. I should hope so. Lucas was very thorough. A sharp intake of breath. Lucas Sutter. Your grandfather's attorney? The same. Vivian is. He pauses, choosing his words. She's quite distressed. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting to discuss. I'm not interested in meetings, Jeffrey. I spent 18 years in meetings where my voice was ignored and my expertise dismissed. The time for meetings has passed. The silence hangs between us. I understand, he finally says, though he doesn't. Not really. By noon, my phone has logged 37 missed calls from Vivian. By 3 o'clock, 63. By nightfall, 91 calls in 24 hours. I spend the next day in my rented cabin 15 miles outside Santa Fe, unpacking the few belongings I chose to keep. The rest furniture, kitchen items, most of my clothes I donated to a women's shelter. Starting over means traveling light. The knock on my door comes shortly after sunset. Lucas stands on the porch, briefcase in hand, silver hair ruffled by the mountain breeze. The preliminary audit results, he says, setting a folder on my kitchen table. Personal expenses charged to the company. Loans from your private accounts never repaid. Misrepresented financial statements to 3 different banks. He taps each document as he speaks. They've frozen all company accounts pending completion. I pour 2 cups of coffee and sit across from him. And Vivian and Rowan? The equity firm is installing interim management. Their futures with the company remain. He sips his coffee. Uncertain. My phone rings again. Rowan. This time when I answer, her words tumble out in a breathless rush. Greta, what did you do? They're threatening to remove us from management entirely. I stand at the window, watching the sun sink behind the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. You said I didn't need to be involved in the real decisions. The words feel like stones dropping from my mouth, heavy with the weight of years. Now someone else is. How could you do this? After everything? After everything I did to keep that company alive while you both took credit? After covering payroll from my savings? After working pneumonia through the Denver show? After 18 years of being introduced as the girl who handles the spreadsheets? Her silence tells me she never knew. Or worse, never cared to know. My phone beeps with a voicemail notification. Vivian, I play it on speaker. How could you betray your family this way? Her voice breaks on the final word, a practiced quiver that once would have sent me scrambling to make things right. I text back a single line. I didn't. I simply stopped enabling the betrayal. Lucas gathers his papers, watching me with careful eyes. Meridian has asked if you'd consider a consulting role. They value your operational knowledge. No. The word comes quickly, cleanly. I'm done. Later, alone on the porch with a blanket against the mountain chill, I screen calls from cousins, aunts, uncles, family members surfacing from the woodwork to either condemn my betrayal of blood or quietly support my decision. Lucas has instructed them all that further communication must go through him. The mountains rise dark against the star-filled sky, their silhouettes both boundary and possibility. I don't know what comes next. For the first time in my adult life, the weight of Voss Manufacturing doesn't press against my shoulders. The constant hum of responsibility has gone quiet. I am uncertain. I am free. And in this moment, that's enough. Morning sunlight streams through the blinds of my downtown Santa Fe office, casting golden rectangles across the polished wood floor. 6 months since I walked away from Voss Manufacturing. 6 months of building something that belongs only to me. I straighten the framed photo of grandfather on my desk. His weathered face looks back at me with that familiar half-smile that always made me feel seen. "Morning, Grandpa," I whisper, running my finger along the frame. The ritual centers me before my first client meeting of the day. My phone buzzes a text from Elena, my assistant. "First appointment canceled. Taking early lunch?" The luxury of flexible time still surprises me. For 18 years, every minute belonged to the company. Now, my calendar serves me. I reply with a simple, "Hiking instead, back by 2. The consulting business started small, just me helping a friend restructure her family's restaurant. Word spread through Santa Fe's tight-knit business community. Now my client list holds 8 family-owned companies navigating the same treacherous waters I once drowned in. The courier arrives at 11, sliding a certified envelope across my desk. The equity firm's logo sits crisp in the corner. I recognize the handwriting on the delivery confirmation, Lucas. Still looking out for me, even now. Inside, 20 pages of financial restructuring details for Voss Manufacturing. Technical language that translates simply: Vivian and Rowan have been offered buyouts for their remaining shares. The company will go fully corporate. The final page holds a handwritten note from Lucas. "They're blaming you. Wanted you to be prepared if extended family reaches out." I file the report in my cabinet without a single flutter in my chest. 6 months ago, those words would have cut like glass. Today, they're just information. Wednesday nights find me at the community center downtown. 8 of us sit in a circle, sharing stories of family business trauma. Tonight, Marjorie, 74, describes how her brothers forced her out of their father's hardware store in 1983. "Did you ever speak to them again?" asks Neil, newest to our group. Marjorie's fingers twist in her lap. "At our mother's funeral, they acted like nothing happened." I recognize the pain in her voice, the particular ache of watching people rewrite history to make themselves the heroes. "Family businesses confuse love with value," I offer quietly. "They expect loyalty without offering respect." Heads nod around the circle. Dr. Winters, our facilitator, gives me an encouraging smile. "Greta, you've made remarkable progress since October," she says. "Would you share how you're feeling about your mother and sister now?" I consider the question. I don't hate them anymore. I just understand them. They needed someone to handle the parts of the business they couldn't. When I stopped being useful, they stopped seeing me. Afterward, Jim and Teresa from the group invite me to their Christmas gathering. "Just a few friends," Teresa explains. "People who understand chosen family." The invitation warms me in unexpected ways. Next day, morning sun glints off snow-capped mountains outside my office window as Melissa nervously twists her wedding ring. 28, bright-eyed, she reminds me of myself a decade ago. My father-in-law wants me to manage their accounts, but every time I question an expense, he tells me I don't understand how family businesses work. Her voice catches. Am I crazy for thinking something's wrong? I slide a leather notebook across my desk. First step, document everything. Date, time, conversation. Know your worth before they try to define it for you. Relief floods her face. I thought I was just being paranoid. Trust your instincts, I tell her. They're usually right. In helping her, I find purpose beyond what Voss Manufacturing ever offered me. Former employees still call occasionally. Vivian has moved to Arizona to live with her cousin after the equity firm restructured executive roles. Rowan applies for marketing positions but struggles without the safety net of family connection. Her resume lists accomplishments that were mine. Some relatives have reached out with tentative olive branches. Uncle Paul called it Thanksgiving, his voice hesitant. "You did what you had to do," he said before hanging up. Others maintain the betrayal narrative, easier than admitting they watched it happen for years. This morning I hike alone in the foothills. Wind whips my hair as I reach the summit, the vista spreading before me, Santa Fe nestled in the valley. mountains embracing the horizon. The perspective shifts something inside me. I check grandfather's watch on my wrist. His most treasured possession, left specifically to me in a codicil I discovered only after the equity deal closed. My journal rests on a flat rock. I open to a fresh page and write, "Being valued isn't something you beg for, it's something you require." Back at my office, the phone rings just after 3. Voss Consulting. How may I help you? The name still feels right on my tongue, reclaimed for something honest. I'm hoping you can help us. A man's voice strained with worry. Our family business is falling apart. My sister and father won't listen to reason about the finances, and I'm afraid we're heading for disaster. A familiar story. My story, told in different voices across different industries. I understand exactly what you're facing, I tell him, a knowing smile forming as I look out at the mountains. When can we meet? The answer comes easily now, not from desperation or obligation, but from knowing precisely what I'm worth.